This is Comic Geek Speak, episode 74. Welcome to Comic Geek Speak, brought to you in conjunction with WorldFamousComics.com. Your spot on the internet for the best comic book and entertainment-related columns, contests, features, reviews, news, resources, and more. I'm Brian Deemer.
I'm Shane Kelly.
I'm Jamie D.
I'm Peter Rios.
We are sexy bitches, yeah!
And welcome to the show. This episode of Comic Geek Speak is sponsored by Atomika, God is Red. Atomika. I don't know why I'm having a hard time saying that. Atomika number 5 is going to press next week and will be in stores November 16th. Atomika number 6 will be in stores on November 30th. Atomika 1 through 4 are available for reorder. Mercury Comics strives to keep Atomika in stock for new fans and to be able to jump on at any time. Atomika 1 through 4 are available at your local comic book store or directly through mercurycomics.com. The Atomika God is Red Book 1 trade paperback is currently being assembled with additional material, including a cover gallery, pin-ups, sketches, and more. It is scheduled to be released the first week of December. Atomika number 7 will be in stores December 28th. Mercury Comics will be attending the New York Comic Con 2006 in February, along with many other conventions throughout the year. Atomika will be back on schedule with issue 7, along with the rest of the series through issue 12, the conclusion of the first story arc of Atomika, God is Red. Look for more from Atomika and Mercury Comics in the coming year. A reminder that November's Book of the Month Club selection is The Goon, Volume 1 trade paperback. You can get that, if you'd like, from InStockTrades.com for 40% off. And if you're so inclined, you can also get Volumes 0, 2, and 3. They're also 40% off, so have a field day with Goon in November. And our contest for November is sponsored by Discount Comic Book Service and In Stock Trades. And the deal is they want some theme music because they're going to start sponsoring some episodes, and they want to have cool music in the background when they do it. So they need something exciting and royalty-free, so if you can compose your own music that you think sounds heroic and fun, do so. Cameron, the guy who runs DCBS, he'll be judging, and the winner gets $100 worth of stuff of your choice from InStockTrades.com. So you can pick anything on the website, $100 worth for free. So that's a hell of a prize. We already have a couple entries, so keep them coming.
You can't beat that with a big stick. I mean, a huge stick you can't beat that with.
It's awesome. I should sit down with GarageBand.
I was just going to say,
send it in under a pseudonym, a pen name, and see if he picks it.
I was going to say, since we're not judging it or picking, or did we get clarification that we can enter or not?
Yeah.
Well, we did.
Oh, you did?
Because he emailed me about something else and said, hey, you guys, as long as you don't put your name on it. But I emailed him back and said, well, I think we got to leave it to our listeners.
Totally.
It was tempting.
Yeah.
Very tempting. And a question was brought up, can you enter more than once?
Absolutely.
Sure. Why not?
Yeah, if you're going composition crazy, send us 5 or 10 of them. Who cares?
If you're channeling your inner Mozart, go for it.
That's right. And I am personally very, very excited to be able to announce the official launch of comicbookdb.com. For our forum members, you've known about this for a couple months now. And in fact, it's our most popular thread on the forum with 20 pages of posts. But
wow.
One of our listeners, same gentleman who actually designed our website, was frustrated with the lack of a good comic book database on the internet. Now, I know a lot of people listening right now are going, wait, I know of like one that's good, and I know of 2 that are great, and I know of this other one that's awesome, and why do we need another one? Well, I'll tell you why. And I agree, because when he originally posted the question on the forum, and I was behind him 100% before he even started working on this website. Everyone's familiar with IMDb, the Internet Movie Database. You type in the name of a movie. Oh, you type in Forrest Gump. Up comes a list of every actor and the part that they played in Forrest Gump. So you see, Tom Hanks played Forrest Gump. And you can click on Tom Hanks' name and then see And there are the
And then
dogs.
the
Scared
dogs
the
bark.
crap out of me.
And then you can see every movie that he ever made. And then you can click on one of those movies and then see the list of all the people who are in that movie. And you end up spending an hour clicking around IMDb going, I didn't remember that guy was in that movie. Well, all the comic book database sites do not have that functionality. So he wanted to create the IMDb of comic books. So he did. And those of us on the forum who wanted to check it out, we've been beta testing it for him. And we've been adding comic books furiously. Well, some more than others. I only added a few. But, Peter, you added like 300 and some comics or something. So basically, it's just like IMDb. You add what you want to add, and you look up what you want to look up. So you type in Teen Titans, and there's a list of all the Teen Titan comics. And then you click the title, and it shows you issue 1 through 57 or whatever. And then you click on issue 57 to see who drew it and who wrote it and who inked it and who penciled, and all that stuff. And there are synopses of the issues if people typed it in. There are what storyline it was in, if it's part 1 of 3, and I mean every bit of information you could want could potentially be there. Cover galleries, scans of the covers. It's all user driven. So if you're looking for a comic, it's not in there. Well, then you'll have to add it yourself, or hope come back in a week and maybe someone else will have added it. But he just is going official with it today. So check it out, comicbookdb.com. For me personally, I will use it probably on a daily basis, especially doing this show when we're like, what year was that written or whatever? Boom, we'll type it in, and as soon as people, because right now there are about 8,000 comics in it, but people will be adding them. With just the testers, it was averaging like 130 comics a day were being entered into the system, and as soon as thousands more people hear about it, hopefully it'll be up to like 1,000 a day, and every day you'll go back, there'll just be many, many more comics to look for. So your searches will start to be fruitful in a very short period of time. I think it's awesome. Well,
it is awesome. I mean, there for a while, I went, bonkers, and I was up all night putting in every single Titans book I could think of, just so under my name would be this huge list of Titan books. And you're right. You can use it. You can click on May 1989, and it'll put every other book that's cover date May 1989. And there's a whole different section of just story arcs that go through like multiple titles.
Right.
You want to look up all your Crisis on Infinite Earths related crossovers. Boom, you can get it right there. Operation Galactic Storm. If they're entered, they'll show up.
Right.
And it's just so easy to use and fun and just I got
you just start clicking around like a maniac.
Yeah.
Wow, who's this? What? And create creator biographies and pictures of the creators, which is cool because a lot of people, if they don't go to conventions, they don't know what these guys look like. So, in fact, he just let me know that yesterday, Andy Diggle, the writer of Losers and Adam Strange series, he actually went to the website, entered his own biography. Entered some comics that he wrote that weren't in the system yet, and then emailed him some suggestions for some ways to make it better, and then said, "Hey, I love the site." It's like that's so
great.
Creators are already using this.
That's all you need.
Right.
There's right there.
So I think it's going to quickly become the best comic book database on the internet. Any of the other ones, I think, will fade into obscurity because this thing is way cooler than any of those.
They will crush them.
And he did just add a new feature where you can actually, you don't have to log in or anything, and if you do, it's free, but you can't enter any comics unless you're logged in. But he also added a feature now that if you're logged in and you're looking at a comic, you can click it to add it to your private collection. So if you want to keep track of all of your comic books online, it's a free way to do that. And then, of course, the cover's there and all the information's there. And then you can also do things like if you have a copy of that and you want to sell it, you can check that off. And then if someone's looking to buy a comic, they can click on that issue and then see the 10 people who want to sell it and what price they're offering it for or whatever. Or if you're looking for an issue, you can tag it that you want this issue. And then someone could come along and say, I have that issue, and email them and say, I'll sell it to you. So it's not just a database, it's also a whole marketplace. It's very cool. So
Excellent.
make sure you check that out. So should we do some emails? You have anything else you want to talk about, Peter?
Yeah, I do actually. Also, to go back to DCBS and our Independent Comics Challenge, our Indie Challenge. If you go to their site this month, they have 2 books: Athena Voltaire #1 and Marlene #1. that are discounted at 50% off the cover price. Marlene is by Peter Snurgeberg. I always butcher that name. And Athena Voltaire is was a webcomic that won an Eisner this past Eisner Award ceremony. And they put that out in a comic form. So to kind of, spur the indie challenge along, DCBS in the near future, or every month with the new previews, they're going to discount certain books for us for the indie challenge. We'll spotlight them, we'll announce them, and then if you want to pick them up, they'll be 50% off. So I thought that was they could it was kind of late in the month, so we weren't able to get too many for this time around. But Athena Voltaire #1, Marlene #1. Just a way to kind of pick something that maybe you don't know about and maybe might spark interest. We've talked about Athena Voltaire before, and Peter Snurgeberg, or however you say his name.
I always say Snidgeberg.
Yeah, is a cool artist. He was on Starman and
I own one of his original pages.
Oh, there you go. So look for more of those books to be discounted like that in the coming month.
Yeah, the whole indie challenge thing actually came from our listeners. Some people on the forum said, "Hey, that's why it's called Indie Challenge." They said, "We challenge you to each month pick up one independent book that you wouldn't normally get," and they're excluding Dark Horse and Image from indies, so they're talking about like real hardcore indies, And they said, just pick up one a month. That's all. You guys spend like $100 a month on comics. You can throw an extra $2-3 and you won't even notice it. And we said, all right, that's cool. And then Cameron said, hey, I like that idea. I'll work with you to help get independent books into the hands of readers. And so we're going to pick out a handful each month, and then he's going to discount them. And then, we'll mix it up every month to be something new and original and different.
That's one of the things you don't usually see him or see the DCBS discounting independents quite that much. I mean, maybe they'll spotlight a couple, discount them like 40%, but 50% is a really nice discount for you to take a chance on something new.
Oh yeah. Yep. So definitely support those whenever we.
I think I'm probably going to order both of those because one, I loved Athena Voltaire when I read like a sample page or two online, and Peter's work I love, so I'm going to check it out.
Another thing I had the privilege and the pleasure of being on the Comics Podcast Crossover #2 Friday night with Bruce Rosenberger, hosted by Bruce Rosenberger. And also on there was Chris from the Collected Comics Library and Mike O.D. from Most People Are DJs. And it's just kind of like a roundtable discussion, roundtable forum, and we just had a whole bunch of topics that we talked about. You can find it at comicscast.libsyn.com, Bruce Rosenberger's site, and that's Comicscast with 2 Ks. And it's about an hour.
Yeah, like an hour and 10.
Yeah. And it was a lot of fun, like I said, and it really was neat to hear other podcasters' thoughts, and we learned a lot about each other, and I think it's a great forum, and he's going to keep it going with different podcasters every week, and so check that out.
Cool. Let's go to the email here. We got an email from Greg Schenka. He actually emailed us before. He said, gentlemen, though I often feel an urge to stop what I'm doing and write as I listen to a podcast, episode 71 has finally forced my hand. Studying for the patent bar and job hunting be damned. Your discussion about comic vending machines is a discussion about nothing new. During the early 60s, at least until 1967, comic book vending machines existed. Unlike, I think, almost everyone else in the world, my first comic book came not from a newsstand or a comic shop, but from one of those vending machines. Family legend has it that my father bought me one to keep me quiet while my parents were shopping at a local department store, Arlen's, a precursor to the Kmart type of store. From such a little thing are such life-changing addictions born. Over the years, I have reasoned that comic was bought for me when I was between 3 and 4 years old in January 1966 when the Batman show premiered. I was 4 and I knew who Batman was before then, and I can't see my father spending 15 cents, cover price plus 3 cents markup, for something I would have destroyed any younger than 3. I can't tell you much about the machines except that to me the machine towered to the ceiling. I know that there was markup in price. Many a trip to the store resulted in no comic book because they were too expensive there. I knew that you could choose from different titles, but how many comics you could choose from I don't remember. I do know that you could not see the comics behind the ones in front, and I remember disappointment when I'd choose a comic, it would be vended, and then I'd see something more interesting replace that which had just been bought. Of course, there wouldn't be another purchase. I say 1967 was the end of the comic book vending machine in that location as a guess. I know it was gone before the Batman show was canceled. To corroborate my story, I've attached a letter scanned from Comic Book Marketplace number 70, page 75 to 76, August of 1999, from a person in Kentucky, which also describes the machine. I think the comic vending machine may have been a Middle America phenomenon, as I was in Milwaukee at the time, and the writer of the letter hails from Kentucky. Over the years, this topic has come up occasionally, but there is very little information on the internet about the machines, though they appear to be in use in Japan. Anyway, as they say, there is nothing new under the sun. Enjoying the show, though it was a killer not to listen to the Infinite Crisis episode until after my order for October arrived from DCBS. You read an email of mine on the first email show way back when, and I still say that Thor beat Superman because he's a freaking god. Thanks, Greg.
Testify there, brother, testify.
So there you go. There were comic book vending machines in the United States.
I always just wondered about the whole mechanics of that. I mean, was it one of those like the cracker vending machine where it just like drops it out, or and crinkles it as it hits the bottom, or did it slide down? Or
I'm hoping it would slide down. They have postage machines that do that. So
yeah, I was just always wondering.
You order something and it's fragile. It's on the top shelf, and you open the package and it's all crumbs by the time you get it out.
Yeah.
Pricks. Here's another one from Darth Kramer on our forum. It says, "Hey guys, thumbing through some issues lately, it comes to my attention that social issues aren't brought up as much anymore in the world of comics. It seems that 10 years ago, every single comic book had someone with AIDS in it, which of course was a hot-button issue at the time. Now, some books have handled social issues in an excellent manner, such as Green Lantern, Green Arrow, Preacher, the new Green Arrow series, leading into the Teen Titans issue where Mia reveals her secret to them. Of course, that's just a few examples of what I'm familiar with. What do you think has been handled the best? The worst? But most importantly, do you think that social commentary in comics is treated more as a social commentary or as a sales gimmick? Hello, North Star. Just curious. Keep up the good work, guys." Talk.
I don't know. I'd like to think it's a social commentary, but I think also a lot of it's just for sales to a certain extent.
Well, it seems that the ones you normally hear about are the ones that are pumping the sales. I mean, anybody who read Alpha Flight from the beginning pretty much knew he was gay. They never came out and said he was gay, and I'm not ruining anything, because if you haven't realized it by now, it was in all the newspapers and all the radio shows and all that. So I'm not ruining anything there. But it just seems that the ones that usually come across are just sales gimmicks right now. When they were doing the Green Lantern, Green Arrow stuff, I really think that was, Danny O'Neill said he knew he was doing something special with those.
Right.
And, I think he was doing that more out of a storyteller than a, oh my God, look at this, look what I'm doing here.
Even if it's not sales driven, it could be those writers, because they would have been younger at that time, reading the Green Arrow, Green Lantern stuff most likely. They could be trying to recapture that a little bit and add something of themselves into it to emulate that, but it's just not nearly as noticeable now.
Yeah, because the one guy who does that a lot is Judd Winnick.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
He did it in Green Lantern with the gay bashing, and then he did it in Green Arrow with the new Speedy, and she's HIV positive, and he always gets articles written. I know the one with the character that got beaten up in Green Lantern, had an article written on it, but I kind of read them, and it feels like Judd Winnick is doing it because of his own personal experiences,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
and not
Absolutely.
for storytelling purposes. You know, it's just
Yeah, he's promoting his own agenda, which is fine. I have no problems with it, but yeah, it's one of those where the whole me and Pedro and all that kind of comes back, and it's fine if he wants to enlighten and bring it to the forefront using it, I have no problem with that. But like you were saying, it kind of seems a little forced.
Well, after Pedro passed away, I know he toured a lot of places giving speeches and lectures and stuff on the topics. So, I definitely think it's personally driven for him.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Do I want to read that in my comics?
Nah.
I wasn't.
I didn't look at it in a bad light. I liked how they did Maya in Green Arrow. That was probably my favorite portrayal in recent history because it was not necessarily thrown in your face. It was mentioned, talked about, and moved on from. But I don't think it was brought up to be such a big ooh ah as it is in other things.
Did anybody read that Hulk issue where his friend passed away?
Yeah, I read it, and I read it, and it didn't really make that much of an impression on me to really even remember much about it. But I know I did. I read most all of the. That was in the Peter David run you're talking about.
I think
Yeah, and I read most all of that run, and it was one of those that I guess maybe it just didn't make that large of an impression when I read it, and then I kind of like in going back, I realized what they had done, what they had gone through to do that issue, and the flack that they had taken for the issue. And it still didn't make that big of so I don't know if maybe I was desensitized to the message they were portraying, or if I just it just didn't make that big of an impression.
I was just
don't
going to ask you guys if you thought it was because in today's day and age we are desensitized to such things so much.
Well, yeah, for me it is. Again, we'll go back to I see people as people. I see it doesn't matter to me. Gay, straight, white, black, it doesn't, people are people, and those kind of stories never, you gotta take everybody on a case-to-case basis, and those stories just don't, do anything for me.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna ever succeed in comics form. If you're trying something like that, like you said about Denny O'Neil, that just happened.
Yeah.
He was telling a story, yes, but there was, at that time, there's kind of more of a point than now. So I think now it does always seem kind of forced, and I don't know. I don't think we need it in comics. I don't know. I don't care if they're in it or not. I'm not going to rush out to buy it.
It's everywhere. It's in all the media. People have AIDS in movies. People are gay on TV. You read novels. That's just part of life now. AIDS isn't new anymore. It was in the 1980s. It was new. Now, it's a fact of life.
Right.
So it's like, whoa, a big issue. Somebody has cancer. No one writes stories like that. It's like, yeah, maybe the guy has cancer, and okay, that's but it's not like a. Ooh, oh my God! It's just a part of life. Everybody knows someone who has cancer or had cancer or whatever, and it's terrible. But it's not like it doesn't ring all these bell alarms don't go off. Well, and the AIDS thing is starting to fade, and so it's I don't know.
They're even debating about releasing a home test for HIV. How effective it is, I don't know, but
99%.
99%. But they're certainly going in that direction as well. So it's not nearly as impressionable these days as it was then. Back then anybody was afraid. Oh, did I do this? Did I get it? Do I have it? But now it's just a fact of life, like Brian said. Just go on.
I know somebody will probably email us and go, well, comics in the 40s, during World War II, they were all about, and I totally understand.
Yeah.
They were written for obvious reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing is, just on our forum, somebody put a link to, I can't remember the company, but they're putting out these extreme right comics about liberty and da-da-da-da-da. And what's funny is that under the site heading is something like defending and offending people all over the world, or something like that. So right there, they're being. I think they're being tongue in cheek about it because they're saying it right
would have
there.
to be.
Yeah,
That website was so extreme that
Yeah.
no one. There's one guy in Tennessee in a hut somewhere in a shack who actually believes things like that, and everyone
Right.
else realizes that that's a little ridiculous. You know.
So I won't even give out that site. 'Cause number one, I don't know it. Number two, I thought it was hysterical. Just do a Google search. You'll find it.
I was gonna say something, and I don't. Oh, going back to the, and when the vending machine thing and the Japan thing, my friends of ours were just in Japan, and we just visited with them yesterday, and I was saying, you know, I wish I had thought of it. I wish we had done this interview with Eric Larson before you went, because I would have now told you to pick me up some manga, some funky Japanese manga about sushi or whatever. And he says, "Oh, that reminds me." And so they got me some manga.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just handed it to Peter so he can take a peek. Remember, you read from the back,
Reading it
front.
the wrong way.
Sorry, I'm so uncultured.
It goes from right to left.
You can take the little dust jacket off and you see the cover. Oh, and that's backwards now. You had it upside down.
Nice.
All I see
Oh,
is
jeez.
Yeah, open it up and look inside.
I see some very anatomically enhanced women. That's all I can say.
It's extreme hardcore porn.
Oh my god.
It's just body fluids everywhere. It's all.
All right, I'm gonna go step outside the room for a second. No. You know what's funny is that the in-between scenes are all like cartoony, comic-y, and then you get to the scenes and they're all detailed. It's like,
That's right.
yeah.
They said
Some things are important.
they said that everywhere that they saw comics, they didn't see any that weren't porn.
Really?
They saw none. They're like, I don't know what these vending machines you're talking about. And I don't know where all these newsstands are with all this stuff. Is it, we didn't see any. They were in Tokyo and Kyoto, and they didn't see a single comic that wasn't hardcore porn.
Somebody else. I feel dirty right now. I need a shower.
Because once it comes over to my corner, you take a second. Once it comes over here,
We're not
it's
gonna
not coming back out.
We're not gonna hear from Jamie for the whole rest of the episode.
So I don't know. I mean, I guess they were just in the wrong places. I don't know what they were doing.
Well, they were visiting all the strip clubs and all that.
No, what they said was there would be one building with 10 stores in it, and on one floor it could be a bookstore, next floor it could be just a bar, a karaoke, then a strip club, then a children's clothing store, and then it's just like all in the same complex because there aren't many stigmas about any of that kind of stuff there. So,
Plus, there's not a lot of room there, so.
well, yeah, but that's true. But it's interesting.
I need a translation.
Yeah. Ooh. Oh.
Hard, deep.
Hey, I would like to make some comments regarding our last episode. We had a lot of listener response on the forum concerning when we were discussing that we didn't think that perhaps House of M was as good as Infinite Crisis, and that we feel that Marvel, regardless of the quality of House of M, we feel that Marvel kind of forced the issue because they didn't really need a crossover. They just wanted one to compete with DC. And a lot of people seem to think that we were just completely Marvel bashing. And I don't feel that that was the case at all. I know personally I was not Marvel bashing. I said at least 3 times in that episode that Marvel has a ton of awesome books. They just don't connect in any real way because Marvel is not paying a lot of attention to continuity. I said with the exception of the Bendis books, there isn't really a lot of continuity sharing going on in the Marvel Universe. Right now, we're all more excited about DC because the event is not forced and it's a natural, organic thing that is wonderful and amazing stories. And that's why we're really into DC right now. But I'm still buying more Marvel titles than I am DC. So anyone who thought we were Marvel bashing and Marvel hating, I disagree. That's what I wanted to say. What are your... I mean, you read those forums.
Yeah, I've read them too. And the first thing I said was, in the actual episode, you were the one who had the most opinions about Marvel and their current policies and things like that. And I said, this is coming from a Marvel zombie, from a guy who reads Marvel comics more than the rest in the room. And And it's not that it's just because I agree. It's not because I'm bashing Marvel. It's just
No, absolutely not. I've always purchased more DC than Marvel, and my Marvel selection has gone down. But again, it's just because things that they're doing do not interest me at this point. It's not that I'm Marvel bashing them. I miss not getting what I would consider a good regular X-Men title and Spider-Man title, and things like that. But it's no bashing intended at all.
Yeah.
There are still Marvel things I pick up and read.
And this is some of this is our own personal feelings, but some of it you can go places and that fans aren't the only one. There are creators who also are saying the same things. That some of what Marvel is trying to do, what they're experimenting, or this whole glut of writers from movies and books and novels at the exclusion of comic book writers and things like that. There is some validity to some of these arguments that they're trying things that maybe aren't working, and they're trying and they're sticking with things that maybe they should have given up a long time ago. I mean, there's a reason why when you fire Mark Waid off of Fantastic Four and then he comes back, that's egg on your face. When you get rid of Thunderbolts and create this Fight Club, but then you come back with a miniseries and then a new series, that's another egg on your face. You were trying to do things in those two instances where it was like really cool. We're going to make it Fight Club Thunderbolts. It sucked. I don't care if you liked it or not. It sucked.
And there's no shame in trying it.
No, there was shame in trying it because they should have started a new series. They should never, because what they did was they killed the momentum of Thunderbolts. Right. And so instead of going, so not that I want them to apologize or something like that, but those are, when you do things like that, you got to kind of, I think I do want an apology for Identity Disc. You know what I mean? It's like you can't put something like out like that and expect, come on, who are you trying to kid?
Well, what I'm saying, I don't shame them or blame them for trying new things, even if they fail. They are trying something. They're trying to evolve into some things that weren't done before. You've never had novelists and movie writers. I don't necessarily agree with it.
Not to this extent.
Yeah. I don't necessarily agree with it, but hey, at least they're trying. I don't fault them for that.
Right, and if Stephen King doing Dark Tower brings more people to comics, maybe it will, maybe it won't. I don't know. Maybe it'll be the #1 seller, and maybe it won't. I don't know. But I think they are always trying to do the new thing. What am I trying to say? I wish they would
just focus on writing good comics.
Yeah, for the long term.
Right.
I'm tired of always. Iron Man can't get a leg. Where's Iron Man? Where's the latest Iron Man? It's just not happening. Because where's the latest Doctor Strange? We had 5 issues of J. Michael Straczynski. Why didn't that lead into a series? I know there's Doctor Strange fans. Now, are they doing it because they're waiting for that one writer who's going to have such a hot idea? Why can't or why can't you just get like an established comic writer and get him to write it, get it started, and then jump in the middle? I don't know. I just think all these miniseries, these gluts of miniseries, I just think they're trying too hard.
And people will argue that DC has their glut of miniseries with,
and they do,
with everything going into Infinite Crisis, and they do. But again,
argument I don't.
Oh no. But for me, it's a fluid momentum from the beginning of the story 2 years ago, continuing through here, and that's how they did it, rather than stick it in the middle of a regular series.
I meant with like Batman. The ridiculous amount of Batman books they have out is insane.
Well, and I get most of the regular series of Batman, but all those miniseries and stuff, I don't get many of them at all.
I think the bottom line for me is, I don't hate Marvel. I love Marvel. I'm a Marvel zombie. I certainly am not bashing them. I'm disappointed. Why am I disappointed? I'm disappointed because I don't have the same excitement about Marvel right now as I do about DC. And because I am at the core a Marvel zombie, for me to be excited about reading DC comics is shameful. I should love. I shouldn't be this excited about all these books. They shouldn't be this good because it's freaking DC, And I want to feel that way about Marvel again, because that's the way I was as a kid, And DC's put out so many damn good comics that they have me more excited than Marvel, and that to me is a shame, and I'm disappointed in that.
Well, see, I think the whole crux of this argument, and I'll chime in because I wasn't here to chime in on the other ones. The whole crux of the argument is DC is pinning its year on Infinite Crisis. Marvel then decided they're going to pin their year on House of M. You can argue with me, but you're wrong. That's the way they are. As far as I'm concerned, so far what I've gotten for Infinite Crisis, even though it's only number one issue is out, the prelude and lead up to it has just been much better than all six. I have read issue 7 kind of off the shelf, and I looked through issue 8 this past week. It's just been better than what they gave me with House of M, because House of M could have been A, done in the regular books, B, could have been done quicker, C, didn't have to have all of the crossovers that it did, because I've yet to hear anybody really talk about any of the House of M crossovers. I don't hear anybody talking about Incredible Hulk House of M. I don't hear talk about Spider-Man House of M, Fantastic Four House of M, Mutantopia, and the list of crap goes on. They didn't need to do that again. So that's, if anything, and I know I have to finish this up quick because we just got a phone call. If anything, that is what I am most disappointed in, that they took my expectations and they just haven't come through with it. There's a lot of really good stuff at Marvel, and to bash an entire company because you don't like their big crossover, or to be accused of bashing the entire company because you personally don't like their big crossover, and I have read it, so people can't tell me that was a big thing on the forum. How can you bash it when you haven't read it? Well, I've read them, and they're crap. Okay, they are. And even with the big reveal in issue 7 on why they did this, they could have done this in issue 1. Okay, I didn't need all this build-up that's ultimately going to go nowhere because of what they did. That is my biggest disappointment. Just start, look at the books that are selling. Look at the books you're doing good stuff with. The Avengers, New Avengers. For me, Ghost Rider. Oh, God, I'm trying to think of some other ones that I'm reading from Marvel.
Team Up.
Marvel Team Up. Look at how they're successful. Look at what they're doing with those and emulate them. What happened to your promise that you were going to cut back on the X titles?
Amen.
That was your big thing when you took over, Joe Quesada. Yet, right now, there are more X books out there than there were before you took over. Whether they be limited series, regular series, there are more X books out there on the shelf than before. Do you really need, even though I love Peter David, do you really need a third Spider-Man series? When you cut back off of a third Spider-Man series when you first took over, you don't need that. So just concentrate. Bring Peter David on writing Spider-Man, but give him one of the already established Spider-Man books. And
hallelujah.
And Jamie, you're a fan of Marvel, right?
I love Marvel.
You're not coming at this as a pure DC guy.
I love all the comics. I mean, you guys, anybody who's listening to the show realizes I read everything. I will read Marvel, DC, Dark Horse, Image, Strangers in Paradise,
Arrow
Bone.
Blue.
I'll read porn. I mean, I read anything in the comic book genre, and I love Marvel. Marvel was the first really books that so I won't call myself a Marvel zombie per se anymore. I used to be when I was a kid, but thanks to like Man of Steel and those things, I got into DC and started loving DC. But just come back to good storytelling. Give frickin' Michael Bendis 2 books, maybe 3 tops. Let him make those books fantastic. And just good storytelling again in all your books. Cut down the amount of titles and just make everything out there something I want to read. Because right now, maybe you have 10 titles, maybe 15 that I want to read out of 50, 60 titles that you put out a month. And I'd buy more if it was better. So that's just my 2 cents.
All right. Well said.
Now the heat will be off of us.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, yeah, all my
You take
bashers
all the flack.
For the next week.
I'm used to it. My
Leo.
shirts are big.
Yes.
How you doing?
Okay.
Good. Let me just give you a quick introduction. This is Leo McGovern, and it came to our attention a while back, this article about when Katrina hit Louisiana, and there was this article about you, and that you were only able to save, at the time, one comic out of your entire collection. And so, since then, our listeners have been so gracious. I contacted Leo and said, "Hey, is there anything we can do? We'd love to. We have great support from our listeners. We'd love to maybe just kind of help restore some of what you lost." And he's been getting some packages, and it's really been, I think, I can't thank the listeners enough for doing that. How has things been? How's it been since that time, Leo?
Well, I mean, since Peter first got in touch with me, that was probably latter part of September, and things in New Orleans were just kind of getting back to a little bit of normalcy. I've been back in the city since September 16th. So things have certainly progressed quite a bit since then. There are actually a lot of businesses open. There's actually a comic shop that's open now in uptown New Orleans. So things have been getting a little bit better, getting a little bit back to normal. I've started up my business again, which is publishing a magazine called Anti-Gravity. We put out our first issue right at the end of October, just in time for the Voodoo Music Experience in New Orleans and its sister festival in Memphis. So that's kind of where we're at right now. I'm super busy with business type stuff, and home wise, I'm still living with my parents, on the outside, about 10 minutes outside of New Orleans, because obviously my house where I lived at is unlivable and has been actually gutted by my landlord to start the rebuilding process.
Wow. So you really did lose your entire collection, correct? Is that what? Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was actually able to take that one comic book, the Transmetropolitan #1, and that was the only book out of probably, I would guesstimate, around 40,000 at least, not counting.
40,000.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I've been, reading. I've been reading comics since I was, 4 years old, and collecting seriously since I was probably 11, and I'm 20. I'm going to be 27 next month, so I don't know. I suck at math. Do the subtraction. That's how long I've been seriously collecting comics, and that number probably doesn't count what was all the trade paperbacks and things like on my bookshelf and statues and things like that I had.
So you've gotten about 4 or 5 packages, right?
Yeah, somewhere around that, like 4 or 5, maybe 6. I got 2 over the weekend, which has actually been really cool.
Cool. And what's been the gem? I know you said somebody gave you a whole bunch of old Amazing Spider-Mans, right? Yeah,
that was probably one of the bigger packages. I had mentioned in the email I sent back to Peter that I was just a freak for Spider-Man stuff, and I guess one of the biggest memories for me is when I was in high school and junior high, actually, getting some newsstand copies of the Eric Larson run of Amazing Spider-Man in that area. And I just mentioned that I was kind of, a geek for that kind of stuff. And lo and behold, when this package showed up, it was the early part of Larson's run, and then some odd-end Avengers from the 80s and some odd-end Daredevils. And then at the bottom of the stack was just 3 copies of Amazing Spider-Man, one number 39, one number 41, and one number 42, actually. And, they're pretty beat up, but, that's exactly the kind of stuff that I'm just like a freak for. I had mentioned when I sent Peter an email again or in the post on my blog about it, that, one of the weird, unspoken, dreams of mine was to eventually form like an entire run of Amazing Spider-Man all the way from 1 to whatever 525 they're on now, and keep that current. And that's what I was kind of building towards before, just when I'd go to conventions, just picking up, a bunch of whatever I could find out of quarter boxes or dollar boxes, whatever I could do. And so to get those 3 comics, even, in beat-up condition, was like super, super cool.
Hey, Leo, we're getting some weird feedback, so can we call you right back? Hello?
I think we lost him. Let me check. That was weird. I don't know what happened there.
Well, we can cut this out, too. Maybe he hasn't hung up yet.
Hello, guys. Is anybody there?
Should I pause it or just let go?
Just gotta get noise on there.
All of a sudden it goes up and like, oh crap, I forgot.
Hey, I don't know what happened there. We got all kinds of weird feedback and then it cut out. So. Okay, hang on 1 second. He said cell phone service is still very shady.
Yeah.
Okay, are you there?
Yes.
All right, excellent.
Cool. Hey, just talk about your magazine a little bit.
Okay. Basically, magazine's called Anti-Gravity, and we started in June of 2004, just with the basically filling a niche in New Orleans where, obviously if you ask somebody on the street about New Orleans music, the first thing that's going to come to mind is like jazz or Zydeco or something along those lines. But there's a very, strong following in New Orleans for rock music and underground culture and things like that. And so basically what we tried to do with Anti-Gravity was fill that niche and give it some coverage that some of the other magazines weren't really interested in doing. So I basically formatted the magazine after some of my favorite publications like Andy Warhol's Interview magazine and things like that. So basically we would just do features with like interviews of local bands and national bands, and like supplement that with reviews of comics, movies, albums, and actual comic strips. And we'll actually syndicate Randy Lander's reviews from thefourthrail.com, his Snap Judgments reviews. We run like 2 or 3 of those every month. And I syndicate Too Much Coffee Man and the K Chronicles by Keith Knight. And I also run a couple of strips by some local guys. And so we pretty much went from June of 2004 and monthly until August of 2005, and we were actually scheduled to go to press on our September issue on August 29th, which people will recognize as the date that Katrina hit New Orleans.
And what's the website again for that?
The website address is www.antigravitymagazine.com.
Cool. Leo, thanks so much for being on. I think it's just really great that some of our listeners are stepping up to the plate. And if anybody else would be so kind as to send a trade, send a couple comics, whatever, you can email me. You can find me on the forum. You can email comicgeekspeak@gmail.com is what you can do. And I'll gladly, give Leo your address because I just thought it was cool to kind of, see that we were able to help you out because I can't imagine losing 40,000 comics. I was crying over a basement flood one time, so I can't imagine, losing that.
I can't imagine 40,000.
It's kind of a surreal experience, but I don't even know if it's completely sunk in yet. But
yeah,
but definitely I can't thank you guys enough, and I can't thank your listeners enough for just like helping out some guy who lost stuff. So it's been like a really cool thing to actually get some help and
great,
see the good side of people.
And hey, we'll be checking out the magazine, and we'll keep in touch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on.
All right, thanks for having me.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye.
Bye. Yeah,
Man,
40,000.
40,000 comics.
That's like John standings.
I mean, the only, there's no upside to this at all.
No.
But do you know that whole thing of the feeling you get about going after back issues? And I mean, I guess, if you got to start all over. So maybe that's something to kind of look forward to. That the
I
hunt,
would know.
I don't even
comics
think
hunt,
I could buy any more.
40,000.
So there is no silver lining to that cloud.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
There's not.
But I will. One thing I would like to say is, after, that was kind of a nice segue after all of our ranting and raving, and we were being bashed for, for bashing Marvel, and everybody was, all this petty stuff. It's nice to hear that even with the petty stuff, our listeners do respond, and I thought that was really great that he's actually getting some comics. It's really great, and I really would like to thank everybody and anybody who actually sent him stuff.
Yep.
Kudos to you.
Check out his blog, and it has every time he gets something, he puts it up there.
Address again?
I think it's antigravitymagazine.blogspot.com, something like that.
Okay.
I'll put it up on.
He did have a list too of some of the books that he received, which is quite.
And some of it's new, and some of it's older, and some of it's stuff. I think he just said he got a whole bunch of like Cerebus issues that he never read. He's never read Cerebus, and he's looking forward to that. So it's cool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Matt can send him the identity disc,
He wanted to. That was one of the big things.
and he'll stop buying comics forever.
He'll say, "What the hell are you doing to me?"
I sent him the Fables Volume 1 from our Book of the Month, and also the Justice League Classified issues, because our prize winner didn't want them, so we sent them down to Leo.
Very cool. Hey, did anybody here look at this month's Wizard?
Yeah.
Yes.
See the article on Grant Morrison?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now I have more reason to not like Grant Morrison, as if I didn't have enough before. He says in there that he was on acid when he was writing Invisibles. Now, I think it's safe to say that everyone knows my stance on drugs. I think if you use drugs, you're an ass. I don't care who it is or what kind of drug it is or when it was, you're an ass. And acid is one of the biggest asses of all, because it never gets out of your system for like your entire life. You could be 85 and still have a flashback or trip thing. And then people wonder why you can't understand Invisibles. He probably can't even understand Invisibles. He's freaking high on acid when he's writing it. How are you supposed to know what's going on here?
Now, if you're hating him for that, then
shit.
you must hate all of music and all of authors and poets, and I mean, come on.
Yeah, but a lot of them don't admit it. And he's coming out writing like he's proud of it. Yeah, I was on acid when I wrote Invisibles. I'm great. Ha, look at me. I'm a drug user. Prick.
What about all the painters and all that? I mean,
yeah, well, I don't have a lot of respect for a lot of them either,
That's just, it's one of those that I tell you, he wrote that, and I don't care who says it, only he knows what it meant. That's Grant Morrison is a writer who writes for himself, and we just come along, and if we get flashes that we understand what he's writing, then you get flashes, but only he truly knows what he's writing. So that's my little. But I will admit, I have been reading the Seven Soldiers, and I've been getting them all, and they are at least the first storyline is actually starting to make a little sense, which I'm kind of scared. That's one of those, when you read it and go, "Wow, that made some sense." I don't know if I'm having a flashback, but I will admit I have been enjoying that. So
I love the quote that he has. Oh, wait, I gotta find it.
The one that says, "I'm an ass."
No. The one that says that you're an ass?
No, the one that says,
no.
Where he says, "I am an ass."
Oh, no. Wait.
And they said quietly it smelled of a haze of marijuana, which is another stupid ass.
He says, the Mike Cotton did the interview. He says, it begs the question, is Grant Morrison too smart for comics? When I ask him, he looks miffed and a little taken aback. No, he responds with a smile. I know not everything I write is for everyone. That's not why I write. I grew up a working class kid in a not so nice neighborhood. I'm not an intellectual. I just don't like stories that end happily or tie everything up in a nice little bow. I like metaphors and multiple levels to stories. I want the readers to think. And if they're not willing to do that, they can go fuck off. I love it. It's a great
That's
book.
why not everybody likes Rock of Ages.
Right.
I just had to comment on that because I felt vindicated as I was reading the article, going, "Okay, this is good. I'm allowed to hate."
Oh, come
him
on!
now.
You don't think Tom Clancy's popping some Vicodin or something like that, or Brian Michael Bendis is smoking up?
I don't know.
We're gonna get.
I was gonna say, Peter is gonna
Those are my own opinions.
It's gonna be on Comic Geek Speak. They
Disclaimer.
said
Alan Moore.
Brian
Alan
Michael
Moore.
Bendis eats babies. That's
Yeah. The other white meat.
I do want to remind everyone that Quarters in the Jar is active and alive on our website. If you send us an email and we don't read it on the air, we will probably have put it on the website under the Quarters in the Jar section, and where any of us and all of us can respond to those emails, and so you can read the email and then read our comments about your email. And so check it out.
It's just like a cool letters page.
That's right.
It's awesome.
It's like a letters page.
And click on. You have to scroll down to click for the more for more of them.
Right.
So just you know, it's not only on the first page. You got to click down
Right.
for the more. Should we go to our big topic?
Sure, do it. Now that we're more than halfway through the show.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Top 5 greatest first issues. Top 5 greatest first issues. Do you want me to start?
Go ahead.
yeah, because I got nothing.
You do it.
I told you.
I
that
got
was-
mine written down.
My brain was a blank, so I want to hear what you guys say, and maybe
Yeah.
I'll chime in with
I mean, I literally wrote about 20 to 25 because I just couldn't. You know, this is all personal, obviously, and I tried to make it really ones that stood out, not ones that are like, you know, Dark Knight Returns #1 and Watchmen #1. You know what I mean? I tried to make ones that really, for me, hit something that I enjoy about comics. Also, I tried to make it. This is on my own personal list that I had to have read it when it came out. Not that I read it, 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, which may change. Some people
I
you
didn't
can
think
do
of
what you
that
want.
way.
But for me, I tried to, because that kind of, like the whole thing about a song puts you back in a certain memory of high school or whatever. So I wanted to do something like that. So,
now, are we saying these are issue number ones?
Yes.
Or okay.
yeah, that's what mine is. Issue #1s that just totally either blew me out of the water or just made me want to read the rest of the run or just that constantly stick in my mind. So I'm going to start out with an obvious one, Crisis #1 from cover date April '85. And the reason I put that down is because the years that I read comics leading up to that made me enjoy that issue even more. I started reading comics at just the right time that I could understand what was going on, that I knew it was this huge event, that I wasn't so latched onto, history in the past that I was like, oh, I can't believe they're destroying all these characters that I really love. No, I kind of was, I was gearing up for them. I was gearing up for that kind of thing. So Crisis #1. Suicide Squad #1, May of 1987. Just, I don't know what it was about that book, but at the time, I just loved that book. I loved that series. Luke McDonnell was the artist, and he was just on Justice League right before this. I didn't know who John Ostrander was. I did sort of from Legends, but it was more about just the collection of those characters, getting the villains together, the whole Belle Reve prison, Amanda Waller. It just was some neat concepts from Legends that just kind of stuck with me. I don't know. And that series, if you've never read Suicide Squad, you can find most of those in the 50-cent bins, and maybe someday DC will trade them or something like that. The next one I'm going to pick is going to sound like it's obvious why I'm picking it, but it actually isn't. JLA #1, January '97, Grant Morrison's first issue. All right, so right away everybody's like, oh, well, you're a big Morrison fan, that's why. Actually, I hated that issue when it came out. I actually did not like it. And I read the first 4 issues, and I was like, no,
New World Order.
Yeah, something about it didn't click for me. It didn't click until, like, the
Those are the
Angels
only
issue.
Morrison issues I liked.
It didn't click until further down the road. And so the reason I have it down as the #1 is because I was so excited about it, and it was one of those that it wasn't until, like I said, 4 or 5, I guess it was like issue 6 or 7, that I went back and I went, oh, okay, I see what's going on here. So I just threw that on there for that. One I'm going to pick down purely for just how much fun it was Mr. Majestic #1 from September '99.
That was a
with,
fun issue.
Yeah, Ed McGuinness, and I think it's Joe Kelly. Maybe Joe Casey. I forget who wrote that.
It's either Casey or Kelly. I know
can't-
those.
I can remember. just a fun issue. Oh man, it really is just.
It was the most fun of, I guess, was a 4-issue miniseries, and it kind of, or was it ongoing?
It's like
It was
9
ongoing.
issues.
Yeah,
Ongoing,
it
okay.
ended at 9.
Yeah.
But of all the issues, I mean, I read all the issues because of that one. I agree.
Yeah.
That one just hooked me, and you're right. It was just old-fashioned, 60s Superman type story, and it made perfect sense. It was just as they told it. You're looking and going, "Oh my God, is he really doing that?" And then by the time it was all over, you were just like, "Wow, that was really cool."
Yeah, and it covers like a number of decades. The other cool thing about it was, he had a space suit and a solar suit, so it was kind of fun to see that kind of superhero cliche.
You got me into reading that one time at sitting by your pool when we had
Really?
one of our pool party gatherings. You were talking about it. Let me go pick it up.
So that I had to put that down. God, I got to pick another one because I skipped one because I know it's going to be on Shane's list.
It's probably on my list too, or then there's another one that's on Shane's list too.
Well, you know what? I'm going to go back to this one that I skipped before. That
In fact, it's more fun to guess what's going to be on everyone else's list.
Yeah.
Youngblood #1. I know I'm going to get
Strike
booted
it.
out the
Strike
room.
it.
I know.
Strike it.
I know. April 1992. Not
So you're
because
making me think in a whole different way now, man. Jeez.
it's not because it was such a great issue, but when it comes to comics and people who when it comes to selling comics, that comic sold me on Image. I admit it, freely admit that I got suckered by the whole Image thing, and I followed Image for a while, and I was proud to own that issue. It was kind of like, wow, look at Youngblood #1. I didn't think it was going to be valuable. I wasn't a collector. I didn't have the collector mentality. I just thought it was kind of cool, and then I learned very quickly what Image was about, and so I just put that on there for that. So that's my top 5.
I have 9. I have 9 now.
I only have 5. You want me to go?
You go with your 5.
All right. I have Why the Last Man. I know it's very recent, but nonetheless, I read that first issue not really knowing what the series was about. I mean, obviously the concept, but and I went, I really like that. I can't wait to read more. So, put it down. I'm going to go with Thor, the, was it Heroes Reborn? Or was Thor part of that? But it was
Heroes
rebooted at
Return.
#1. Something.
Yeah, it was part of that.
And it was John Romita Jr. artwork and
Heroes
Dan
Return,
Jurgens
yeah.
writing it, right?
Had a gold cover.
And up until that, I never really gave a hoot about Thor. Couldn't really care less about Thor. But I bought it because it was John Romita Jr. artwork. And then I started reading and went, wow, I really like Thor. And then for 50 issues or something, Thor was awesome. So that made me appreciate. Now I think Thor's a really great character, and I love reading Thor. So for that reason, I got a Starman #1, which I'm sure is on Shane's list.
And see, the only reason I didn't put that on my list is because I didn't read #1 when that came out.
Oh,
So-
see, I did.
That's not on my list.
And that was,
You mean #0?
well, whatever it was, yeah. That was actually one of the first non-Batman DC titles that I ever bought, just because it looked cool, and well, the rest is history. JSA #1, again, more recent, but I still wasn't reading hardly any DC books, and then these guys all kept saying how good stuff was, and they said JSA was really good, and my roommate Alex at the time let me borrow like the first 3 issues or something, and I read them, and then quickly started buying the monthlies with like issue 4. I was only a couple months behind, so I'll include it, even though I didn't read it technically the month it came out. And now I still love JSA, and now I'm all into the DC universe because of that. And then my last one, Archer and Armstrong, #1. It made me appreciate who Barry Windsor Smith was and his amazing talent, who I still see as probably my favorite comic book artist of all time, and even though he's hardly doing anything anymore, but so. Because I don't think many of my Marvel titles that I read, I never got as #1.
Right.
All the things were too. I didn't read Amazing Spider-Man #1, so I can't put it down.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to keep it at 10 right now because with what Peter talked about, it made me think of things in a different way, and I can't narrow it down any farther than that. So I'm going with 10 as Walking Dead #1, even though it was in the trade that I read. There's no way I would have ever in my life picked up that book to read unless we would have done it as a book of the month. And I never in a million years thought I would enjoy a horror type genre comic book like that. And it made me appreciate something outside of a norm that has always been a constant in my life of reading superhero books. The next 3 are all old books that I never in a million years could have read when I was younger, because they were out so much longer before I was born. It's Fantastic Four #1, Action #1, and Batman #1. Fantastic Four because I think it's incredible how much that book changed comics history with Marvel. Action and Batman are pretty self-explanatory, and I just couldn't not have them on the list because Action was the first time anything like that had really been printed in such a large scale. And Batman, to get his own title at that time, I just think I couldn't put Detective 26, so I put Batman #1 because we were doing issue 1s. Next, I put Spawn #1, much for Peter's reason of Youngblood #1 because it got me into Image, and I actually liked the first year of Spawn really well.
Yeah.
I even collected it, I think, for 3 years before I dropped it, and pick up an issue every now and then. But Spawn #1, the art was great, the concept was interesting, and it was a new company, something new in the 90s that nobody had ever done really before. So I put that on. I put Gen 13 #1. Just because that was a very, and still is a very guilty pleasure of mine for reading it. It's very quirky, goofy, teenage angst type superpower book. I love J. Scott Campbell and Jim Lee's art that was on it all over for those first few years. Then I went with G.I. Joe #1 because that is the issue that, although I didn't read it when it first came out, I read G.I. Joe #21 first. But G.I. Joe as a comic book is what got me into collecting comics in a serious manner. And I remember buying this off of a friend in school for $6, G.I. Joe #1, and having to shovel snow to purchase it because I wanted to get the first issue of that and start collecting all those back issues. JLA #1 is on mine because it brought back a greatness to the Justice League. As much as I liked the campy, silly, quirky, goofy Giffen DeMatteis run of Justice League, this really brought it into a forefront, using the Big Seven, using the whole pantheon that Grant Morrison had planned out on using it all. And I got so excited for that book that I couldn't believe that it was going to actually come out and be that good, and it was. I loved all of it. I put Crisis on Infinite Earths because it made me appreciate the DC Universe. When I did first read it, which was years after it came out, it added such a complexity level to the DC Universe that I had never paid attention to, and have since grown and learned about so much so that if it wasn't for being coerced into reading that, I probably wouldn't have ever for a long time yet. And then my last one is Giffen DeMatteis and McGuire's Justice League #1, just because it is my absolute favorite book. So that's my top 10.
Yeah, I knew that one was going to be on your list.
Yeah.
Because it's just so fun.
It's just so fun. It's so much fun.
I had a really tough time when I read our little message and he said this was going to be our topic, just coming up with anything. Because a lot of times for me, #1 issues usually aren't the best issue of the series. I've found that, sometimes there are some series that after I read the #1 issue, I want to read the rest. And there's sometimes I'll read the #1 issue and I'll just get to #2 saying, okay, this is, let's see where they go with it. So for me, #1 issues standing out, I was very tough to come up with some. One that I knew I was reading, and these two, I knew I was reading something different when I read them. Creature #1. I had that feeling while I was reading. I was like, wow, this is something that, that hasn't been done before. This is something that I find interesting. This is something I want to see where they're going with. And The Authority #1. Again, a book that I was like, did he just do that? Did they just do that? God, strap me in. I'm along for the ride. So those were two books that I was like, wow. Two other books, and people who've listened a long time know I love these books. Strangers in Paradise #1, and I have been reading this series since #1, very first incarnation at I believe it was Antarctica Press.
Yeah.
And Bone #1. And just for, one, they made me laugh, both of them. There was humor in them, yet I could see there was something deeper going on. Not so much as Bone. Bone was more of a humor magazine, humor comic, until they really got into the story. Then it got serious with a touch of humor. But Strangers in Paradise was kind of that mix. And I'm trying to think of another book that I read the first issue and I was like, wow, this is something new. I don't know if maybe that's the wrong way to do it. Just trying to think of something from Marvel that because
Speedball.
Oh yes,
McFarlane's Spider-Man.
That was great. I mean, maybe just something along the lines of X-Men #1, the Jim Lee X-Men #1. It was just not so much because it was a great book, but it was so hyped, and it was done well. Even if I bought all frickin' 5 covers, and I did buy all 5 covers, it was something new. Not really something new, but it was just that hype, and I thought it paid off, well. So I'll put that in just because I can't think of a 5th one. I wanted to throw in a Marvel book, but those are my 5.
Cool. What are your 5? I'm sure we'll get there.
I was gonna say
that'll be on the
that'll be a
forum
thread
or whatever. Once again, the time that we all wait for has come.
to watch Peter fall on his face.
That's right.
Yes.
Watch him flounder like a fish from water. All right. This one's from David Beard. He says, love the show. I listen when I drive the 6 hours to see my wife on weekends. She lives in Madison, Wisconsin. I live in Duluth, Minnesota. You have saved me from many a drowsy night on lonely roads. Probably many an accident.
That's my kind of marriage.
He's a college professor, so he all day long with those co-eds. And Anyway, I love the interviews, too. Nice to see you have an audience building. I am now buying trades from In Stock Trades and will give E. Gerber a look, perhaps to replace my orders with Bags Unlimited, who do not use Mylar. Anyway, here are the questions. All of the answers to this...
The music's still playing.
It is?
Yeah.
I can't hear it.
Do you hear it?
I can hear it.
Oh, I hear it.
Well, how could that be?
Because they're going insane. That's.
Do you hear it, Jamie?
I hear something.
I hear nothing.
Do you hear it now?
No, it's gone now.
But now it's back?
No.
Yeah.
Okay, just answer questions.
Okay, weird, because I don't hear anything in my headphones. All of the answers to this Stump the Rios contain the letters DC. Okay? First question.
What?
I don't even need to ask the
Interesting
first
twist.
question. He says easy. When Stan Lee was writing in the editorial pages of Marvel Comics in the 70s, what did he call DC to hint that he was talking about them?
Distinguished competition.
Yeah. All right. Question 2, harder. Another amazing comic series began in 1985. No, not Crisis. With the premise that each writer-artist team on each issue
DC challenge
would try to stump the next writer-artist team, writing themselves into a corner. What was the name of this 12-issue series? Yes.
Can you solve it before they do or something?
Question 3, hardest. Who is the creator of Terrain, the Earth Mover, Avatar, Mosquito, Werehawk, Silky, Black Mane, and Silver
Cockrum.
Shadow? Yes.
The future. Wait. What are they called? The
Futurians.
Futurians. Thank
Yes.
you, Jamie. Nice.
Okay, 3 for 3. You needed that for a
I
while.
did,
You
yeah.
have been getting spanked for a while. I think you're starting to like it.
Who's your pick?
Oh, God.
Spanking him like he likes it.
Thanks for those questions. Woohoo. Hey,
And a very interesting twist.
yeah, I like some of those themed Real quick, I got some tidbits about Wizard World Texas. Some news that came out. You can find this all over the internet, Newsarama and World Famous and a whole bunch of things. DC and Marvel didn't have any booth, no presence there. Michael Turner was the guy
DC didn't have a booth
DC
either?
did not have a booth
That's
either.
crazy.
Mike Turner was the big draw. They had like huge lines for Mike Turner. They sell beer at that con.
No.
Which I thought was amazing.
Drunken
comic book
fans.
fury
In Texas. Some Marvel things that came out of Wizard World Texas. There's going to be a second Defenders run by Keith Giffen and Jay.
Very cool.
Pasquale Ferry, which is a favorite on this show, is going to be drawing the second Ultimate Iron Man miniseries with Orson Scott Card writing. Astonishing X-Men will restart with issue 13, which I was glad to hear. That doesn't go back to number 1. Brian Hitch is going to stay with Marvel until 2009. Peter David's going to be on a 5-issue Wonder Man series in 2006.
Cool.
There's going to be an Absolute Sandman. Marv Wolfman is going to co-write some...
Whoa. Absolute Sandman?
Yeah.
Well, what? I mean, it can't be the whole series.
No, I think they're talking about like the first 20 issues or so.
Probably the first trade, I would think.
Wow.
Yeah.
Only the first trade, though? That doesn't seem like enough issues.
I think it's all... If you look at Neil Gaiman's website, he talks a little bit more about what's actually in it.
I want to know, are they going to...
Are they going to continue?
Do the entire run?
That would be sweet.
No,
That would make me
be
pick up.
friggin' expensive.
Yeah.
I'd pick up one. I mean, if they tell me they're gonna do one and they pick and choose different stories, then I think I would pick it up. But if they're doing all of them, no way, I can't afford that.
Wolfman,
No comment.
Marv Wolfman will co-write Teen Titans with Jeff Johns, and there's going to be, a Teen Titans annual in 2006 that he will write, and Captain Carrot will be in Teen Titans soon. I don't know how. And 52 will launch in May.
Wow.
There's no price point. All the writers,
It's free. Excellent.
all the writers will be co-writing each issue. They will not be like alternating or anything like that. And there's going to be backup stories in it as well. So
it's going to be after Infinite Crisis.
yeah, which I did not. I
No,
thought
it
they
was-
originally said it was going to coincide.
It
so
was.
we were wrong. I was wrong.
I would.
I think they just changed that.
I would
really
stake
do.
my comic book collection on the fact that when we were at various shows, they said it was going to
Right.
start in between.
It's going to start
5 and
January.
6 or something like
Yeah,
that.
January week 1, boom. But obviously we haven't been seeing it in previews, so. So that's just some tidbits about Wizard World Texas.
Cool. Should we call someone?
Yeah,
All right, let's
I
call
have his number.
About Wizard World Texas.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
About Wizard World Texas. Was Erica Durancy there? Erica Durance?
I don't know.
I have to look that up because when Brian said about imdb.com, I spent like an hour the other day looking through and I'm like, I'll look her up, and I was looking at all the other stuff she was in.
Right, that's funny.
After I watched last episode of Smallville, I've missed most, but I watched that one.
The stripper episode.
Yes, sir.
Oh my!
I missed that.
That's going to be a keeper.
It was kind of silly, but
I don't care.
But she looked really good swinging around a pole.
That's right.
Is it ringing?
I don't hear anything.
Hello?
Oh,
There we go.
We're calling Brad Milo in Texas.
Oh, okay.
Every time someone says Texas, I want
He
to
went
say
to.
deep in the heart.
This is Brad.
Hello, Brad.
Brian,
Brad, this is Comic Geek Speak. You're on the air. How are you?
I'm doing well. How you guys doing?
How you
Very
doing?
well.
Well, you're never going to believe where you caught me.
No.
There seems to be an echo.
Yeah, the acoustics, right?
There you go. I don't think I have to say any more than that.
Hey, it's where I do all my best thinking. That's all I know.
Well, I'm still at work late. I was actually typing up a review of Wizard World Texas that I was going to post later tonight, and I'm sure by the time somebody hears this, they will have read it already. But that's why I'm at work late typing that up.
Well, what was your favorite part of Wizard World?
I got to meet Peter David. He was so much fun, and he was so nice, and he's my favorite author of comics and novels. He was genuine, and he was just a pleasure. It was really, really cool. I was overwhelmed the first day. It was my first convention. First day there, I was just like, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be taking notes and taking pictures, and I just couldn't. I was just walking around with my mouth open all day.
Your first convention ever?
my first comic convention. I've been to one Star Trek convention, but it was my first comic convention.
Cool.
Yeah, and I plan on going back next year. It was awesome.
Great.
Excellent.
It was fantastic.
What can you kind of give us like a size of the show? Was it big, small, medium? Would you know?
I'm sure it was not as big as San Diego and all that. If I was to guess, I'm thinking it's probably a relatively small show because it didn't take very long to walk from one end of the floor to the other. And the Star Trek convention I've been to before was pretty big. There were some pretty big names at this one. Sean Astin was there. Margot Kidder was there.
That's right.
The guy that was Leatherface in the original Chainsaw Massacre, he was there. I'm going to guess it was one of their smaller shows, but all the artists that I met, I've met Mike Norton. I got a sketch from him. It was nice to meet him.
Cool.
All those guys, Ethan Van Sciver was real nice. David Mack, great guy.
He's always at every convention.
Oh yeah, all those. Dude, I met David Mack and I bought his first Kabuki trade, and he ended up throwing, and that was $20. He ended up throwing in probably $25 worth of free stuff, and he signed everything for me.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was great. It was great.
What did Mike Norton draw for you?
He drew a sketch of Gravity for me in the back, and I brought my Gravity issues, and he signed all those.
Cool.
And I kept remembering you guys saying, "Go to Artist Alley, go to Artist Alley," and that was one of my favorite places in the whole convention because you could see people doing stuff and just meet people. It was fantastic.
Was there a multimedia type person there, like up here? Liza Dushku was at one. I think last year at Wizard World Texas, Erica Durance was there. Was there anybody like that?
Oh yeah, Ron Perlman was there, Hellboy.
Oh, cool.
And Summer Glau, River Tam from Serenity.
Serenity, yeah.
Okay.
Firefly. They were both there. Margot Kidder, Sean Astin. You had to have a ticket to get in to see Sean Astin.
That must have been crazy.
And, yeah, you had to. And
Goonies
you had
forever.
To pay. What's that?
Goonies forever.
Yeah, really. The dude looked tired too. He was in this. It looked like he had just woken up and hadn't even brushed his hair. But it was great. Lionsgate Film had a big booth there, and Brian Hitch was there because he's involved with that new Avengers DVD that's coming out.
Right.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, it was really fun. Lots of fun.
And they had beer. I heard they sold beer at the con.
They did. They did have beer, and
We gotta get that up here.
I almost bought one, but I was going out Saturday night, and I said, no, I'm going to have plenty of beer then. So I wanted to. I didn't want to slow down in the middle of the day.
Right.
And I never realized how tiring walking around was.
Cool.
With a heavy backpack full of stuff. And
Yep.
that night I was just sore.
Welcome to the world of conventions.
That's
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Well, it was awesome, and I'm going back next year.
Just wait till you make your first pilgrimage to San Diego.
Oh,
I would love to.
9 hours it took me to walk that floor.
Okay, then I would definitely say Texas was a small convention. But it was amazing for me being my first. It was awesome.
Oh, sure. You never forget the first time.
Oh yeah.
Now we look forward to hearing all your reports.
Good. I'm going to type them up tonight, and by the time people are listening to this, they will have already read them.
Excellent. By the way, thanks for those rotating cover graphics on the forum.
Hey, no problem. I really enjoyed doing that, and I made the one I made for this week was a lot bigger than the past one. There was like almost double the size, but I figured, what the heck, there was a lot of good covers.
Yeah. Cool. All right, Brad. Well, thanks
Hey,
for
thanks
joining
for
us.
calling, guys. I really appreciate it.
We'll let you finish your business.
Yeah, you know what? I finished while we were talking. I was waiting to hang up to complete the deal, if you know what I mean.
I was gonna say that's where I escaped from my kids.
Well, yeah, I tend to bring a book in with me, but as a matter of fact, I've got my iPod shuffle around my neck. I was listening to you guys, and then I felt my pants vibrating, and I realized, oh, somebody's calling me. So,
Well, I don't think anybody can top that. So.
on that note, it
There's
was,
gonna be a moment in history here.
yeah.
All right, Brad.
All right,
talk
you
to you
guys
soon.
take care.
Take
All
care.
right, bye-bye.
Yep, bye.
Bye.
We can't ever get any normal phone calls. It's either
That's
answering
great.
machines or.
Then I felt my pants vibrate. Oh.
I like this segment. Oh, man.
That's funny.
Eli, you want to say
Jeez,
hello?
So the last thing we're going to do to close out the show is we're going to actually attempt to get this time Sal Abbinanti on the phone. He's the creator and the artist on Atomika. And so for the last few minutes here, we're just going to quick talk to him about the book. Atomika and Mercury Comics are sponsoring this episode. MercuryComics.com, where you can pick up any kind of news on Atomika and release dates and trade release dates and things like that. And in this room, Brian, Jamie, and I have read it.
Yep.
They sent us the first 4 issues.
Hey, it's Brian Deemer.
And we all read it. And Jamie, you said you liked it? Yep.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I'd been looking at it on the shelf at our local shop. I just hadn't picked it up. I don't know why. And
Great.
when I heard they were gonna, sponsor us, and then they had sent us the first 4, I was very, very happily sat down and read it. And I'll wait to tell them.
Cool. Yep. Hey, Sal.
Yes,
Hey, it's Peter.
Peter, I'm sorry, man.
No,
I can't
no.
apologize enough to you guys.
No problem. We're here at the end of the episode, and we have a few minutes, and we just want to just rap a little bit about Atomika. You said you're actually in the studio. You said you were up late last night.
Man, it's like nothing but it's like you urinate coffee when you're working on these things. It's just I've been pulling all-nighters since I started this thing because it just works out to be the best time to get stuff done. You don't have as many distractions, and you got nobody to talk to, and so you wind up living the life of a vampire. So yeah, I'm finishing up Atomika. I'm getting going on number 7. There's a lot of big double-page spreads of him destroying Moscow. So
Cool.
Which usually leads to like a lot of sleepless nights.
We just were actually talking about reading the first 4 issues, and Jamie was talking about what he was just giving his little review on it.
Yeah, I was just saying how much I really did enjoy it. I'd said I'd been looking at these on the shelf at the comic shop, just hadn't gotten a chance to pick them up.
And you haven't bought them like everybody else, right?
Yeah, but I will say.
No,
No, it's the truth. I was like, hey, I'll wait till they get into the 50-cent box, but
it won't take long. It's one of those things nowadays with independent books nowadays. It's tough, to get people to give new stuff a shot after they've only got a certain amount of dough when they walk into a comic store, and you got to get your main titles, the stuff that you're in there for, and to give people to give indie stuff a shot is like 99% of the battle.
But I will tell you, I enjoyed all 4 of them.
I appreciate it.
I am now back working at our local store, so I will start pimping that as best I can.
Oh well, and then getting retailers to buy into indie stuff is equally as hard because since Diamond changed their rules, without getting too heavy into this stuff, if the comic owner buys them and he can't sell them, he's got to eat them.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, but our guy has all 4 issues on the shelf, and I'm looking forward to issue number 5. I'm going to pick it up, and I even think I'm going to either pick up the 4 issues or maybe just wait for the trade, since you said there's going to be more stuff in the trade, and pick that up.
Well, now since you guys are involved with the show, you get free copies. So I wouldn't, I'm not going to tell you not to buy it, but I'll send them to you either way. So.
Okay, well that's cool.
Because we got the trade coming out.
Okay.
Because we've left Speakeasy, which kind of screwed up our schedule a little bit because we decided to go off on our own with Mercury Comics, which just basically means you do all the work instead of somebody telling you they're doing the work and not actually doing the work. But we're going to for some weird reason, we're going to have 5 and 6 both coming out in the month of November. I don't know how that worked itself out, but I didn't actually draw 2 issues in a month. But yeah, and then the trade's coming out, and Alex Ross was nice enough to do the cover for me for the trade. Hopefully, if people pick it up just for that, that's part of the reason you get them. But hopefully they'll read the thing.
And that's what got me to look at the first one, that cover. Can you just give us like a quick overview? I mean, is it a quick like 5-minute, not 5-minute, but a couple minute overview of the series?
Well, it's basically it started out of desperation more than anything. I mean, my art style is it's not mainstream enough. At least that's what I heard from 10,000 different editors who looked at my portfolio like they were looking at a car wreck. And they just kept telling me my stuff was too European. It was too European, and I don't know what that means. If I'm supposed to go, I mean, I live in Chicago. Does that mean I move to Europe to draw comics, or do I just go back to the bar? Because I was a bartender for 12 years. And so I said, well, I better just put my money where my mouth is and put up my own dough for it. And Atomika kind of just came about, again, from the whole idea that, it's Russia growing up in the 70s was the evil empire. So I wanted to do something kind of Kirby-esque, or larger than life, instead of just a regular guy in a costume, jumping off a building, or a Batman type of thing. I figured I would make it on a larger scale. And in a nutshell, he's the god of the 20th century. I looked up a little Russian mythology and a lot of Russian history, and it turned out to be worse than I thought. I mean, what was going on over there. And so it's kind of, Stalin made religion illegal, and he told the people that, technology is your god. They created a god for the people. So that, I mean, I'm not a big Russian history guy, but that in mixture with my growing up with Kirby and growing up with John Buscema and reading Thor and all that, I said, let me put something together here. And I didn't realize it was going to be taken so heavy by people. I've gotten some letters from, Russian professors, and I don't know what they're talking about, but it sounds good.
Are they being nice, or is it?
Well, I get the religious guys that are mad about the title because it's God is Red, so I get a lot of hate mail about that, and then I get a lot of guys that are like Russian history people that write me, and they read into it way more than they should. Are you a communist? Why don't you move? And it's better if you got out of this country. And they call me comrade, and I'm like comrade. I'm from the north side of Chicago. I don't know what the comrade part is, but I guess it's good. I mean, again, I don't know if they just type in God and then they get God is Red on the computer, and then they go, well, this guy's, I get a lot of religious people mad at me. So.
Wow. And then, hey, you know what?
I don't know, man. I was like, I just want to draw comics. That's all I tell them.
You're doing something right if you're pissing people off.
I guess. I mean, it's there's a lot of liberty when you're basically completely screwed in terms of getting jobs in comics. You just figure, well, I got nothing to lose. So if I'm going to go down in flames, I may as well make it a strange book. So I didn't do it on purpose, but I guess that's how it worked out.
So those are your influences, Jack Kirby and John
Jack Kirby, John Buscema. Yeah, people always ask me, who's your influence? Like, I'm going to name some, they name these European guys that I've never heard of. And I'm like, I'd love to be all chic and mention all these guys. Oh, yeah, Salvatore Dali's like, no, none of that stuff. It's just really, I grew up, with Marvel in the 70s, with Killdozer and all those retarded books they were coming out with. And Kirby, John Buscema, John Romita, Gil Kane, and Gene Colan. The guys they won't invite to conventions anymore. I don't know what happened to those.
Yeah, the good guys with styles.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, some people get a little caught up in nostalgia a little too much. I was talking the other day with a friend of mine about, the whole Steve Rude, Bruce Timm thing that they do, where they do their riffs on these guys, but then finally, after about 5 years, you're like, well, where does the riff stop and where does you draw like him begin?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're I guess Godland's doing really well, and that's a Kirby-esque thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which was surprising that the guy just draws exactly like Kirby and people like it. I'm like, well, why don't they just buy Kirby? No, I mean, I wish him well. Anybody with an indie book that's doing well, I just think it's funny to see a book where the guy draws exactly like Jack Kirby.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
You'll probably see me at a con and spit on me now. So.
Well, speaking of cons, you are going to be at New York Comic Con, correct?
I'm coming to New York,
awesome.
And hopefully it'll be a good con. I did the show they had a con at the Javits Center about 10 years ago, and it was a really good show. And then since then they've had a lot of the smaller ones, and I've gone to a bunch of those. But they're good. But it's nice to see that they're trying to have a show in a big convention center.
Sure.
And the Javits is a big convention center.
Let's hope they fill it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting. The only thing I think it's got working against it might be because it's in February, and the winters in New York are like, they're
brutal.
Brutal. Yeah. I mean, it's like The Exorcist outside.
Perfect setting for your book.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah, I've got. I guess.
Well, look, we are running out of time just for this episode, but we want to thank you for coming on.
Hey, thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for having me on. Anything you guys need,
No problem.
In the way of any, swag or anything I could do to bribe you, tell your friends to tell the 2 people that read Atomika to buy it. I appreciate it.
And what we'll do is we'll have you back on closer to the convention so we can see where the book is by that time and just get an update.
Yeah.
Sounds
good.
Cool. Thank you for
guys,
giving us your
thanks
time.
Again.
Yeah, take care.
I really appreciate it.
Sure.
All right.
Bye.
All right.
All right.
He was fun.
Yeah, he's a good guy to talk to. I wish we could talk to him more, and we will. We'll talk to him more later.
Yeah, I mean the art style. He's right. It isn't like your typical art style, but it's very. I mean, it's kind of art style that grows on you as you read it, and I really liked it. I wanted to compare it to almost Sandman, but I was kind of didn't want to because, and not Sandman as a whole, but Sandman when he would do his like fable stuff and the folklore. And I know we're running out of time, but just go out and if you trust anything that I've said before, just trust me on this one. Give it a shot, and it takes more than one issue to really get into it. By the middle of the second issue, I really was digging what he was doing, and by the time I got done with number 4, I want number 5. So.
Turn your mic up.
My mic wasn't up the whole time.
Oh, good thing you didn't say much though, too. So.
Oh, okay. Very good.
I think you turned it down for the.
Yeah, I took call them and then I never turned it back up. Okay, I'm censoring myself. To email us, comicgeekspeak@gmail.com. Visit our website, comicgeekspeak.com. Big thanks to Bob at GameCircuit.net for hosting the files, and thanks to UpAllNightGaming.com for hosting our website. If you want to send us a voicemail, call 206-888-4805. And we're brought to you in conjunction with WorldFamousComics.com. And as always, we are uniting the world's mightiest heroes, one listener at a time. See you next time.